got your Magnum Mac guys here on Birds 365. We thank Ricky Ricardo for jumping in with us and giving us some Eagles thoughts. He's just a flat-out good dude, does a great job. I took Spanish for 5 years, 4 in high school and 1 in college. Yo no comprende nada anymore. It's been a lot of years, but
I'm almost the exact same as you. Probably, let's see, 2 years in high school, maybe 2 semesters in college, and I can't do anything. Man, it's embarrassing.
It was many moons ago that I took it, but from everything
I can say, I can't even roll an R, Jody. I can't even roll an R. El gato es rojo. I can't even roll my R's.
I can do a little cursing in Spanish, but that's not going to go over well. So we'll save that.
Curse here, but
yeah, I know.
Nobody will know anyway. Well,
we like to think of Birds 365 as a
family-friendly show. Except when I curse.
But Ricardo does a great job calling the games in Spanish. I love using them every once in a while on WIP. You got Merrill and Mike, so you got certainly great calls to use. But I like to tap into my boy Ricardo every once in a while because he certainly shows the emotion when he calls Eagles games, and he did today, talking about the Eagles with us and Howie Roseman and how he's handling all these negotiations. I'll give you one guy who Howie didn't get done this year, and I can't really blame him for not getting done because you comp everything to everyone else and other players. And you know who got paid this offseason, Johnny Mac? Epsy.
Compared to everybody else, yeah.
Did Eddie, is there an Eagle fan streaming in with us right now who would say that off the season they had just this 1 year, because that's all we got to look at for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, that CJ, GJ, and Epsy had comparable years? I don't think
well, that's the argument. I mean, CJ was the splash player, and that's generally what gets you paid in this league. It didn't get him paid. And Epsy was the more consistent player. But CJ's a better player. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But with Epsy, you don't got to deal with all the other stuff. I mean, that's part of it. People hate when you bring that up. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. He's a pain in the what. I mean, that matters to people. It's not a video game. You saw what he did to Jalen Hurts. He's still out on Twitter throwing bombs at the Eagles every once in a while, quickly tweeting and deleting.
Yeah, he's the king of tweet and delete.
That shit matters. Here I am cursing. And people get really upset when he brings it. And Marcus is just, the exact opposite. He is rock solid, team guy, leader, understated, very much like Terrell Edmonds, the exact same type of guy, reliable, played 99% of the defensive snaps, Jody. And the only reason he didn't play 100 is because they had a couple blowouts in there and they gave him a breather. That's meaningful, even though he didn't make splash plays, even though you can talk about all the things he didn't do. Well, you got to replace 99% of the snaps now with what was a reliable option on the back end.
And
that matters.
If you don't think John is accurate when he tells you character counts and how much you need to be coached up and how much you need to be controlled, I'll give you a couple of guys who signed for you. We all know Bates got the big payday. He's the only one who blew off the top of the market, $16 million per. Nobody else even gets close to that. But guys who got more for some, in some cases, multiple years, and in some cases just 1 year, like Von Bell, $22 million 3-year deal. That's $7 million per, more than Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Juan Thornhill got $7 million per, a 3-year, $21 million deal. That's more than Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Donovan Wilson of the Cowboys to stay in Dallas got a 3-year, $21 million deal. That's $7 million per. That's more than Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Oh, I'm sorry. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's a better safety than him. But why didn't Chauncey get paid? Why did he only have to take a 1-year deal? Jimmy Ward gets a 2-year, $13 million deal. That's the same as Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Why did he get? Because these guys aren't handfuls. That Chauncey Gardner-Johnson probably talked and acted his way out of a better contract this year. I don't know. Only Howie Roseman knows how much they factored that in to their decision to pivot, as Howie described it yesterday. But, man, if you just talk about evaluating what they did on the football field this year, I'd say this side of Bates, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was the second best safety who hit the open market. He wasn't second highest paid safety, John.
Well, I'll say this. Here's how I would describe it. If CJ played the exact same way he played and he acted like Marcus Epps, he'd probably have a contract over $12 million a year average annual value. That would be my guess.
Wow. And that's a pretty significant step up.
And here's all you need to know, because, and I use it too, but average annual value doesn't even matter. What matters is the fully guaranteed money on all these deals. And the day Marcus Epps signed his contract, he got more money than CJ Gardner-Johnson. He got, I think it was 7.8 or somewhere, that's just under 8 of guaranteed money. He got more money than CJ Gardner-Johnson, and they're not comparable players.
No, I'm looking at Sport Track Net right now. F's got over 10 guaranteed out of 12.
Well, I think some of that, I think fully guaranteed. I got 7.755 guaranteed at signing. And that's the fully guaranteed part of it. So, there's agent speak. But either way, he got more money. He got more money than CJ Gardner-Johnson. And he's not the same player. So if you don't believe me, and plenty of people, I got the hate mail to prove it, as usual, you explain it.
And you and I have talked about this many a time on the show, and we both disagree with it, but we both acknowledge it is still a factor in the NFL. Yeah, your pedigree counts. That where you were drafted, what your moves in the league have been. Marcus Epps was released. The Eagles picked him up on waivers. And for him to just a couple of years later, first year as a full-time starter, to be able to jump up into the pure second level of safety contracts. There's Bates, and then there's everybody else. And Epps is right there in the middle of all those other guys. He was able to outdo what does your pedigree say you should be? Where were you drafted? How much have you gotten paid before? He's gone above and beyond it. And he is such a good dude. I can't do anything but root for him, even though he's not going to be an Eagle next year. More power to Epstein to get the kind of deal that he got from the Raiders.
Yeah. And, there's always, maybe Las Vegas made a bad decision. I mean, you can argue all of that, but you mentioned some of the other safeties, and CJ, CJ led the NFL in interceptions. Think about that. And he missed 5 games. He missed 5 games and led the NFL in interceptions. And I remember he wasn't talking about CJ, but I remember I was texting a former GM at the beginning of free agency, and he said, plays get you paid. Making plays get you paid. Not in the case of CJ. Not in the case of CJ. There's always an exception to the rule. And why was it an exception to the rule? Well, look to the tweet and delete. And imagine dealing with that every day in the locker room, that kind of stuff. It is what it is. It is what it is. But, there are 31 other teams as well, Jody. 31 other teams as well. And there's no collusion here, although I'm sure there will be conspiracy theorists who believe there is, because there always are. There ain't 31 teams getting together, 32 teams getting together and saying, hey, let's screw over CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Because he's got a big mouth and he's a social media activist. No, that didn't happen. But speaking of collusion, I do want to get one quarterback point in before we punch Barrett up, because I saw something yesterday that just made me laugh out loud. Lamar Jackson apparently has decided to ask for a trade. He is requesting a trade from the Baltimore Ravens. Somebody's got to sit Lamar down and explain to him the way the NFL works. You're a free agent. Yes, you are still tethered to the Ravens by a franchise tag, but you are allowed to talk to and sign a contract with any one of the other 31 teams in the NFL. How would it benefit the Baltimore Ravens to trade your rights to someone else? Why would any other team want to acquire your rights? The only way that makes any sense if the Ravens go, yeah, we'll just take a 2 for him. Right now, if he signs with another team, they get 2 first-round draft picks. But they're just going to, out of the goodness of their heart, because they've got this great relationship with Lamar, trade him on the cheap so that the team he's going to doesn't have to pay for his services. How stupid is that?
To defend Lamar, which I rarely do,
feel free to try.
In these negotiations, he's a good player. I could defend him as a player.
He's a dynamite player.
But in these negotiations, he's been an absolute abject disaster. But he asked for the trade on March 2nd. He announced it yesterday for some reason. And that kind of explains why the Ravens went the route that they did, and with the non-exclusive franchise tag, which essentially said, all right, go out and go work out a trade. So the timing, I don't know any other reason for him to go public with it. The moment John Harbaugh sits down for the AFC coaches breakfast, that's the minute he sent it out. It said, I asked for a trade on March 2nd. So the timing, he didn't ask for a trade yesterday. The timing was, it was way back, but he said it. That was tweak the Ravens further. I mean, there's no other way to look at it.
Trying to burn bridges with them. Is that what? Do you believe that was his?
Well, I don't know how else to look at it. Yesterday, why? What? That's really convenient timing. Talk about coincidences. Talk about conspiracies. I'll tell you what. That's a hell of a coincidence that the minute the AFC coaches breakfast starts, and from all the guys I was talking to that are there, here comes the tweet, here comes the Instagram, whatever the hell it was. And host of reporters running over to John Harbaugh. I don't think it was a coincidence to release it at that particular time.
I know Lamar is acting as a lone wolf here. Do you want to speculate on what his mindset? What was he?
Well, he's not acting as a lone wolf because he's got Ken Francis.
Ken Francis, and he's got Meek Mill working as a go-between, trying to get him to the Patriots because he's like this with Robert Kraft. So he's got a lot of boys in his.
Meek Mill's going to lose. Well, the Eagles don't need a quarterback, so I guess Meek can rest easy to not upset Eagles fans. But get an agent.
What do you think Lamar was attempting to do by sending out the social media message?
He wants to use wrestling terms, because I'm going to use at least one wrestling term each day in WrestleMania week. He's trying to be the baby face. He's trying to spin it like,
baby face to who?
Well, to the public, to the general public. All right, that's what the fan base. That's what you play baby face for.
The non-Raven fan base, you mean? The other 49.
Yeah. Even the Raven fan base a little bit, in the fact that, that's unrealistic.
He's asking a trade from the Ravens, and that's going to win over Ravens fans?
No, he's trying to say it's not my fault. It's not my fault. The horrible Ravens. They've screwed up my love affair with you, the fans. That's what he's trying to do. I don't think it's going to work.
You think there are Raven fans that are dumb enough to believe that?
Oh, yes. I don't think a lot, but there are a few. There are a few that will blame the Ravens because they're on the player side. It'll be a small minority, but there will be some that always defend the player no matter what.
My opinion is the Ravens haven't mishandled this one iota. I don't think
look at Eagles fans, Jody. The minute C.J. Gardner-Johnson signed with Detroit, he went from, I'm going to defend him, to he's a pain in the ass, get them out of here.
Right.
The minute they can turn on a dime. Fan bases are going to defend players, especially good players, right up until they can't defend them anymore.
You're probably right, but Lamar is sitting there in the gray area middle, and I don't think he's winning over any fans from the Raven fan base by go, well, I requested a trade. Requested a trade to get the hell out of Baltimore. We only love you because you are a Raven. How are we supposed to give you your props, your coverage because you requested a trade because you got screwed by the team? No. Only when you're in purple, buddy. Once you get out of purple, like J-Mac just pointed out, the tide can turn like that, and they can go the other way on you. All right, we're going to turn the tide here. Coming up next, we got our big boy, Barrett Brooks. He's going to jump in with us. He's got plenty to say about the Eagles. We'll get Barrett Brooks next here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game